the Wild Review, and welcome to day 4 of 25 Wild Christmas Review Days, the cartoon specials. We've talked about SpongeBob, we've talked about the Fairly Odd Parents, we've talked about Rugrats, and today we're going to talk about the final Nicktoon that I grew up with. Now we're going to talk about some more Nicktoons as the days go on, not too many more because we still have other networks we have to journey into. But in comparison to these, I didn't grow up with the cartoons that I've yet to talk about or that I will be talking about coming up. These 4 cartoons, they are the main cartoons that I watched religiously on Nickelodeon. The final one is Jimmy Neutron. Look at him! Look at Jimmy Neutron! That's right, I didn't grow up with any other Nicktoons aside from these 4. I mean, I watched a few other Nicktoons. I watched The Mighty Bee. I saw Chalk Zone. I saw My Life as a Teenage Robot. I've seen almost every Nicktoon as of today. But in terms of really watching Nickelodeon, these 4 shows were the main shows that I always watched all the time. I didn't hate any other Nicktoon. I just stuck with those 4 for some reason. I will never understand why my mind works. Anyway, let's get rid of these. Let's talk about this. This is the Jimmy Neutron Christmas Special. Oh boy. The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius was a Nicktoon that ran from 2002 to 2006. The show was based off of a Nickelodeon movie called Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, and the show focuses on an 11-year-old boy genius named Jimmy Neutron, who creates inventions to make his life as a kid easier. Of course, something always goes wrong, and Jimmy has to use his big brain to figure out a solution. The movie focused on aliens taking all the kids' parents, though. That may have been influenced by him, but the show focuses on him doing inventions. They're pretty cool. In 2003, the Christmas special Holly Jolly Jimmy premiered. This episode saw Jimmy and his best friends, Carl and Sheen, traveling to the North Pole so Jimmy can prove that Santa Claus doesn't exist. Once arriving at his workshop, however, Jimmy's DNA tracker overloads and shoots a beam that accidentally scrambles Santa's atoms, making him unable to deliver the gifts. Just when Christmas seems to be in trouble, Jimmy decides he'll deliver the gifts himself to prove that there is no Santa. I like Jimmy Neutron as a show. It was very entertaining, very funny also. I've talked about Planet Sheen before, and that was something that was made. But Jimmy Neutron was great. Being one of the very first CGI Nicktoons at the time, it was really unique to have this lineup of cartoons and then this one cartoon that really stood out. Not even just from the premise, but I think also just from the style. If you were to look at a photo of all the different Nicktoons, obviously the CGI characters are going to be the first ones you're probably going to notice. Aside from SpongeBob, because I'm sure once you see SpongeBob, you'll be like, oh my god, it's SpongeBob! Personally, whenever I saw a photo of Nicktoons all together, one of the first characters I'd immediately go to is Jimmy Neutron, just because he stands out. And he had every right to. He's not a 2D character. He's 3D animation! Which was really cool at the time. A lot of the earlier episodes of the show, I think, are what many people are going to remember about the show. Sheen Estevez is also a character that I think a lot of people will remember just because he was the funniest character on the show. Carl was also very funny, but I think Sheen was just wild. And definitely funnier than Planet Sheen. Q Neutron was also a really funny character and is to date one of my favorite cartoon characters. He just says the weirdest things ever, and I love it. As the show went on, though, it did get a little technical and not complicated, but it heavily relied on continuity. They were bringing a lot of enemies that Jimmy had faced off back. And honestly, there's not so many episodes I remember from the final season of Jimmy Neutron. I remember I saw them. Like, I know one of the last episodes was the episode where they were hosting a news show. They also started doing an arc where Jimmy and Cindy were starting to go out. That was something. I think a lot of us, though, when we think of Jimmy Neutron, we all instantly think back to the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour crossovers. But that's my little take on Jimmy Neutron. And now the Christmas special. Depending on who you talk to about Holly Jolly Jimmy, you're gonna get a different opinion. I can tell you from my perspective, I like it. I like the episode, and I think that's because it's a rare episode for me to watch. I did not see this episode until years after Jimmy Neutron had ended. This episode just randomly aired on Nicktoons because that's where the show went after it's run on Nickelodeon. Majority of the Nicktoons back then used to just air on Nicktoons once they were done, and not while they were still in production and placed there to die. No, I saw this episode years after it had aired, and it really caught my attention because I had never seen it before, so I was fascinated with it. And it is still a rare episode to watch. Obviously, they don't play Jimmy Neutron on TV anymore. I'm sure you can watch it on Paramount Plus, but it's just really fascinating to think that this episode is very rare. They had it on iTunes for a little bit, but I think they took it down. You can't find this episode on any DVD that compiles a bunch of Nickelodeon Christmas specials. I have no idea why. What is it? A few years ago, I bought the iTunes compilation of Nicktoons Christmas episodes, and it consisted of SpongeBob and Rugrats and Fairly Odd Parents and Danny Phantom, Invader Zim, and All Grown Up. It had all those shows, but it didn't have Jimmy Neutron, and I think if they had swapped out All Grown Up with Jimmy Neutron, it would have been the best thing that I had ever purchased on iTunes. We didn't get that, though, and I don't know why. But I think the episode was pretty good. There were just a few laughs, mainly with Hugh Neutron's side quest to bring holiday joy to people and create a holiday all about pie, calling it Pule. And the concept was interesting. The song that's sung, both songs actually, they were pretty good. I do have to say I like the Christmas song they sing in the beginning over the Pule song. It's just more catchy to me. And I don't know, I just think it's a very nice holiday-themed episode, and I find enjoyment when I watch it. A few people disagree, however, and I could see why. I don't want to say this is the vast majority of people that think this, but from what I've seen online and even speaking with just a few people about this episode is not liked by a lot of people, and it really all comes down to just how Jimmy was portrayed. Jimmy was a jerk in the episode, and I'm even going to agree with that. I think, looking back on it and hearing all these opinions, yeah, he's kind of being a jerk. Well, he was being a Scrooge. He was a Scrooge and a Grinch. A Scrinch. Jimmy does not believe in Santa Claus. He feels that it's illogical that such a being would exist. And the whole reason why he doesn't believe in Santa is because he didn't get one gift. He didn't get one gift for Christmas, which is a trope that I can't get behind when it comes to Christmas stories. I feel that when you have a character who stops believing in Santa because they didn't get a specific gift that they asked for, but they got other gifts in the past that they did ask for, I feel that's a little strange. When I was younger, I of course got gifts that I asked for, but there were a few gifts that I didn't get. That didn't make me stop believing in Santa. In fact, it never crossed my mind. I was just kind of occupied by all the toys that I had gotten. I just find that really interesting that that's a motive that you'll see some characters go forward with when it comes to them believing in Santa or not. But Jimmy wanted this energy ball, and he didn't get it. Only for him to get it later in the episode, along with a note that claims Santa needed to have it cool down for a couple of years. Okay, they put it on the tree, I guess that's nice. But Jimmy was kind of a jerk. He was a jerk to a lot of people. He scrambled Santa's atoms. He was very mean to Carl. Even when he was in the workshop, he still didn't believe. You would have convinced me if I had walked in and I saw an elf. Also, his whole logic that if he can deliver all the gifts in one night, that'll prove there's no Santa. Are you sure? You could prove you've delivered all the gifts in one night, but does that technically mean that there isn't a Santa? Wouldn't you become Santa then? Because you have to admit, somebody's giving those gifts out. And if it ain't Santa, it's somebody. There's a few things looking back on it now, obviously, that, you know, strike me as questionable. I do still like the episode, but I understand where a lot of people who have strong opinions about this episode, where they're coming from. Those that think this is a horrible Jimmy Neutron episode, I see it. In comparison to other episodes, yeah, it doesn't track out very well. I also have to admit, I'm not the biggest fan of Santa also being a scientist in a way. Once we see him on screen, he comes off as if he's also a boy genius, or in this case, a Christmas genius. There's just something about it that didn't sit well with me. I feel like Santa was very out of character. It's a different kind of Santa that we got, of course, which is, we're always going to get that in a Christmas special, but in comparison to all the other ones, they were all similar in various ways, and I feel that this Santa Claus was very different, and not in the ways that he should have been different. We did get to see a brain blast from Santa, though, which is interesting, because I don't think any other character aside from Jimmy throughout the entire show has ever done something like that. Timmy Turner did have a small instant where he almost did it, but we never got to see a full brain blast from him. I am a little disappointed that with Santa's brain blast, it wasn't more colorful and, you know, Christmas themed. Like, okay, we got some Christmas imagery there, but I don't know, his brain should look a little different from Jimmy's, right? That's pretty much it. Those are my thoughts on that episode. I'll still watch it. Even though I see the problems with it and I see what everybody's talking about, I still find some comfort in the episode. I'll argue that it is a staple episode of Nickelodeon at Christmas, like I've been saying previously. So, you know, you could fight me on it. I'm defending that it is entertaining to watch, but I understand where you're coming from if you don't like the episode. And I'd love to hear why you would hate the episode. If you're somebody that does not like watching this episode, I'd love to hear your argument for why you don't like it. Maybe there's a different reason why you don't like this episode. Or do you like the episode like me? And if so, why do you like it? That's a great thing about people. We all have our different opinions. So that's my thought on Holly Jolly Jimmy. And that's that. Hey, let's keep going. Let's keep moving on. We've done 4 days so far. Let's make it to 5. 5 rings. We've talked about sponges. We've talked about fairies. We've talked about babies. We've talked about geniuses. What's next? What's next? I guess you're gonna have to find out. Come back tomorrow, because it'll be another holly jolly one. It's Christmas. Woohoo. And yes, this next show I did not grow up with, but I started enjoying it as I got older. Just putting that out there from my comment earlier. You'll see what I'm talking about. Thanks for watching The Wilder Viewer, and you just saw me review a thing.